Well, happy January to everybody else, everybody who's out there. If there is anybody out there, if there isn't,
It's,
well,
if
we're
there is
still,
even a happy January,
but
Derek,
we
that's the
we
other
we are
thing.
still happy, and I'm not doing a veganuary either, so or a dry January, so that's fine. So welcome to the Opinioneers, and today we are talking uncertainty and ambiguity. Are we not?
Oh, are we? Are we really? Is
Could we
that what
be?
we're doing?
What should we
Could
do
we?
about it?
Should
Don't
we
be
talk about
silly.
that? I don't know. I'm
Don't be
very.
silly.
I'm confused.
Shall I give the example we were talking about
Give
just
the
now before,
example.
and then
Give the
people will
example.
know where we're coming from. So imagine you're a tourist and you've just landed not a nice big city somewhere. I don't know, Bangkok, New York, maybe not New York actually these days, Bangkok, say, or somewhere like that. And prior to going, you're probably thinking, "Crikey, there's lots of things to see. What shall we see? Let's read the guidebooks, create a list of things to see, and work out how we're going to see them and when we're going to see them." Which is fair enough, and you could probably go and have a lovely time. But what happens when you get off when you get off the bus or you get off the plane or something, and you're met by the travel rep, or you talk to a taxi driver or the concierge in your hotel, and they say, "Oh, you really should go and see this, or you should go shopping here." And you think, "Crikey, those aren't on my list." So have you, by creating this almost fixed plan, not discounted the possibility because you didn't know, but have you actually made sure that you can't do a lot of things that maybe are there to do? What would happen if you had created a system that just left you and your spouse or family or whatever open to the possibility of seeing absolutely anything if somebody told you about it? And this is the sort of analogy, I guess, that I'm talking about in business life. If we make all these fixed plans, we can only react in a certain way. How do we deal with the ambiguity when particularly business life cycles are shrinking and things are happening really quite quickly? I mean, who knows
Can
when Donald
I?
Trump will next attack a country?
Can I give you a personal example?
You can.
Suggestion. Um, my background. I left the great world of scientists to join the ranks of the entrepreneurs. And one of the things I learned as a scientist, which I did not apply to my business life nearly soon enough, was that as a scientist, you run an experiment, and you run that experiment and you control the variables so that what you end up with is a situation where you get a result and you try to interpret that experiment and the data you get from it in light of the hypothesis that you set out. For instance, I think this advert that I run on Facebook will enable me to increase the sales, and it doesn't work. So you then have to say, okay, so what can I change in order to try and sort of disprove or approve my hypothesis? Now, as a scientist, I used to run an experiment and often get a completely unexpected result. Now, that could leave you with two things. You can do paralysis, because you then start doing the analysis to say, why did it not give me the result? Or you can quite quickly latch on to the fact that it gives you a different result and say, there's something there I can use for my next experiment in order to take me to a completely unknown and unexpected direction. In business, as a scientist, I was very good at latching onto something that was very, very new and thinking, that's interesting, I'll follow that. That's really interesting, I'll follow that thread and see where it takes me. As somebody that started buying, building and owning businesses, my immediate response was that I was afraid of that result, because that didn't help me move the business forward. It was interesting if I thought about it intellectually, but in terms of making the decision, it was wrong and therefore bad. And it took me a very long time to realize that wrong is not bad. Wrong is just different. Wrong is just one of those, okay, we're into an area of uncertainty. How do I cope with that uncertainty? And partly what you need to be is adaptable, flexible. And I think you were using the analogy recently to me of the octopus, which is things can happen independently. What you do is you allow the independence, but you bring some sense of framework and control to the independence, to that uncertainty, to allow you to move forward. Does that?
Sorry, I thought you were going to regale us with more tales of the octopus.
I could regale many more tales of the octopus, and it's really your story, so you should be telling it. The octopus has 8 independent limbs. The brain, if you like, is partly within the limb, so the limb has got autonomy to act upon its own. What the octopus brings as an organism is the fact that when that limb starts to go off and do its own thing, it brings it back and sort of allows it to act in concert with the other limbs. If that limb is cut off, of course, because it's got its own brain, it could wander off and do what it likes. And that may be a sense in which sometimes in a business you could turn around and go, well, that bit of the business is operating on its own. We will release it to let it go and do its own thing. And we'll sort of keep the harmful effects away from the main business, but enjoy the good fortune that it brings. So you can do things like that if you allow yourself to be flexible, to be adaptable, to be agile. Even as a large business, you can learn to be agile enough to be able to say, we don't need to control everything. We need to start thinking like a scientist. And that is occasionally follow the interesting idea and allow yourself the freedom to say, didn't expect that, but it's not a problem. It's potentially a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking a bit more about the octopus, but yeah, but there's 2 things, isn't there? There's what happens internally within a business, and then there's what happens externally to a business.
Agreed.
So yeah, in one case we have the octopus conducting experiments, as it does when it's in its laboratory.
Yeah.
But then we have the octopus reacting to external, an external change in its environment or a threat, and those are in the latter is the most interesting one for me, because it brings up it really is a case of uncertainty and ambiguity. You have no idea what's going to happen, what threats are there in the external environment, but you need to put some process or procedure in place.
Agreed.
The octopus has. So what's the equivalent of the octopus, if you like, for our businesses? I mean, we need to be able to deal with ambiguity, and taking on board the example of the octopus, that sort of indicates that hierarchies are a pretty bad idea for a flexible business. Because you need decision making at a much lower level.
Deeper level. Yeah,
but you need a way of communication, which is how its octopus's tentacles communicate with its little sort of its overall brain. And I hate to bring in the chameleon again, but but although not so much the chameleon doing it itself, it adapts to its environment brilliantly, but not only do the colors hide it or make it look aggressive, that's the other thing it does, communicating to other animals, but as I pointed out, and I didn't know till I researched this, the chameleon can create low frequency vibrations, so it can actually adapt as a sort of, not quite an organism, but as a much larger system. It can communicate with other chameleons.
So are we coming to the conclusion, or are we sort of beginning to sort of realize that uncertainty is not necessarily, and we ought to all know this by now, uncertainty is not necessarily a bad thing in business. It can be an incredible advantage. It can be something which presents opportunities, but the way to deal with it is to ensure that your organization is able to communicate effectively, even in times of trouble, so that you can take advantage. A chameleon takes advantage of these other chameleons around them. The octopus takes advantage of the fact that it's able to reconfigure its limbs so that they can operate independently if required. So that a way of dealing with uncertainty is to embrace it, to take the opportunity of saying this could bring good things. Don't see it as a negative, but see it as a positive.
Yeah, a catchphrase that I haven't quite coined, I came up with, but haven't really used, maybe I should, is that ambiguity is or disruption is not actually a disadvantage. It's a potential upgrade.
Yeah.
If you can cope with it, then your business is going to do an awful lot better. And you keep going back to the old or I keep thinking back to the old Blockbuster Netflix thing. It's not that Blockbuster didn't do what Netflix did. It's just that Blockbuster couldn't react to what Netflix did. If Blockbuster had been able to do what Netflix did, I mean, forget the thing that one wanted to take over the other, then you would have had two people doing something very similar in the marketplace. But yeah, so being able to react to disruption and ambiguity or uncertainty could be considered an upgrade, I guess.
Yeah. So uncertainty is not something to be feared. It's something to be embraced. It's something to realize that you are able to. I mean, yes, it could just cause disruption. Yes, it could make things very uncomfortable. And a lot of people are uncomfortable because of that, because they feel as though being comfortable is an advantage. Well, I think it's apocryphal, but the frog that sits in the water that gets hotter and hotter and hotter. I think actually the truth of the matter is even a frog eventually realizes, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
But there are always going to be ways that you can see that it's causing you to take on new skills, new opportunities open up. I'm very aware of the fact that I was talking to somebody I employed many years ago, and I was explaining to them that they thought that they were doing the right thing by attempting to sort of, maintain their skill set. The problem that I saw in this person maintaining their skill set was that the business was moving forward, and that we were trying to keep up with the market. The market was advancing at sort of 5% a year. If you weren't going at 6% a year, you were standing still. Even if you were growing at 4% a year, that business was going backwards relative to the other competitors who were growing at 5% per year. And this person was trying to do their best to sort of stay neutral. They were trying to sort of just stick with it. And I basically said to them, if you are not growing at a minimum of 5% a year in your personal life, if you are not embracing the opportunities, if you're not embracing the uncertainty that comes with being in this business, you are going backwards as a person, as an employee. And they saw uncertainty ahead as being a bad thing. And so they just wanted to try and avoid it. But by doing it and just trying to stay, sort of, if you like, neutral, they were in actual fact going backwards. They were becoming less and less useful to the business by 5% per year because we had to grow at 6% to stay ahead. And so I told them that they had to go away and think about how in the next year they were going to increase their skill set, value to the business, if you like, by a minimum of 5% per year in order to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And they were unable to get themselves out of the fact that uncertainty, going into a new situation, going into something where there was some level of unknown, was actually bad, and they just didn't want to have anything to do with it. They were unable to cope. But unfortunately, that is the reality of business today.
Well,
For most businesses, you have to move.
Another example of coping with ambiguity is when you look at, and I say I hate these people. I don't hate them, but the fund managers in the city, they always make money no matter what happens. When the markets are tanking, when the markets are going up, they always make money. And I look going back to the early days, a lot of the software that was used to track share prices was actually based on effectively rocket trajectories. So that they made all these, as share prices changed, they made all these little changes to, and so a lot of those people, they love it when they don't quite know what's going to happen, but they know what to do when certain things happen. They never lose money over a large period of time. They never lose money. Mm-hmm. Over a short period of time, they might, but over a long period of time, they won't. So, I mean, I've looked at my pension pot over the last year.
Oh, don't.
And
Don't look at your pension
I
pot.
have not.
Horrible.
No, it's not. It's over 3 years. It's up about 25%.
Oh, it's not bad.
It's not making 9% a year.
Oh, that's good.
But the stock market's not quite making. The stock market's doing well, but it's not making nine and a bit percent. And the bank certainly wouldn't give me 9 and a bit percent. So there are people out there who will embrace. I mean, if you're working in fund management land, I mean, I can't imagine them sitting there saying, "Come on, Donald, invade another country." But it's entirely. I mean, I go back to my a few years ago now, doing financial strategy as part of my MBA, and I couldn't believe at the time that you could actually create a mix of investments that no matter which way the market moved, you made money. You might make more money one way than the other, but you could never lose money. And that blew my mind, that did.
Yeah.
So
such is the vagaries of the wonders of uncertainty, though, isn't it? Uncertainty is something to be embraced. Uncertainty is not something to be feared. Uncertainty will uncover yes, it will uncover faults, it will uncover failings, it will uncover weaknesses, but those aren't to be feared. Those are opportunities to grow. Those are opportunities to attempt to get better. And I personally still think some of the best things that I've ever done have been the things where I have, I'm going to use the word made a mistake. I'm going to use the word done something which is not, which I hadn't understood the consequences of. That's a great way to learn from those and make them better.
That's an interesting ringtone.
Yes, I'm ignoring it. It's nothing to do with me.
Okay, right. I see. Yes. So there we go. So what can companies learn from all this? What can they do? Well, first of all, what should they be doing to sort of scan the environment, looking at
good question.
What can they do? Because that's one of the things they need to do, isn't it?
Yeah. So for me, scanning the environment is a key one. It's an exercise that I have advocated a business owner, business leader should do on a very regular basis. They should be constantly looking around and going, who around here can I see has got things going on that I need to be aware of? What is it that you can see around you? What is it that you can think might be going on? What are your competitors up to? Let's look at competitors on a regular basis. So informative. Having a look at a competitor and thinking, good gracious me, what are they up to? That sort of thing is brilliant. So have a look around at what competitors are doing, and then come to the conclusion there are things there that I could copy. What about also looking at what you're asking customers? Customers are a brilliant source of ideas. They are the great source of innovation, are they not? You need to ask your customers on a regular basis, what else could we do? Example, and this is an area of uncertainty. I was asked to go in and help a guy who was undergoing doing a merger with another organisation. He bought this. This is the madness of some business owners. He basically bought this because his mate decided it would be a good idea, and I got involved because he turned around and said, "I don't know the business I've bought. I'm not sure what the heck they do." And I thought, well, this is interesting. So I went in and I sat down and I started sort of trying to understand exactly what this business is up to. And I got the customer service team together. They were front, customer-facing guys. And I basically we started chatting about the sort of issues that they were dealing with on a daily basis. Because I wanted to build a sort of database of things so that we could help the new team sort of instantly understand the problems. So questions came up like, so what is it this customer said to you? What is it this customer said? And eventually one of them turned around and said, well, I had a customer asked us for this the other day. And it's not something that I've even thought I don't think we do it. I haven't really checked. And somebody else said across the other side of the room, oh, I had a customer ask me something like that then, about 2 months ago. And my immediate response was, we've got at least 2 customers who want this service, but we haven't even thought of offering it.
Mm.
So we put together that service line. We put together an entirely new product, if you like, based upon that.
It's allowing
that product.
Yeah. It's
That
allowing
product
that communication to happen, though,
it's
isn't it?
allowing that communication, but it's also allowing that uncertainty to turn around and say, well, because they're asking for it, doesn't mean we've got to say no or we're not interested in doing it. It actually becomes one of those, yeah, we could help you with that. So that became an additional £500,000 a year on his bottom line.
Yeah.
Why? Because customers were looking for it, but they hadn't found it. All we had to do was ask the question, what is it you'd like? And next thing you know, we've got it. They're looking for it. They're asking for it. They're trying their level best to. So, there is so much opportunity like that we could actually help them with.
Yeah. I mean, that feedback mechanism also needs to be distributed quite widely. I mean, there's a great example I came across. It's from the States. There was delivery drivers going to visit. I can't remember. I think it was somebody like Kellogg or something. It was a huge, great manufacturer, and they reported back to their company that they had noticed that some of their competitors' lorries were actually driving, I don't know whether it was in or out, half full, which is a complete waste of storage space. So
Of course it
actually,
is.
what that actually in the end led to was, well, they ended up sharing lorries with their competitors and saving an awful lot on haulage. Something completely bizarre that they wouldn't normally have thought of doing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was the time when also Eddie Stobbart, they start. I don't know if they still do, but they dressed all their drivers in uniforms and gave them business cards to act as representatives for the company. Now, not only could they promote the company, they could also, I mean, a delivery driver at an unloading bay could be witness to an awful lot of information.
Yeah.
Who's unloading what and when and how often. So, there's plenty of ways. So it could be anything from the receptionist, the doorman, the storeman, the secretaries, people sitting in the office, the well-known coffee machine or water machine.
Yeah, obviously the toilet, anything else like that.
Well, speak for yourself. If you
Yeah.
if you network in the toilet, that's entirely up to you. But absolutely anywhere, and there has to be ways of this being fed back, a bit like the tentacles to the brain in the octopus.
Yeah.
See how I brought that together there? That was.
I do think, and somehow you've managed to bring that straight back to chameleons, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I was just talking
Not yet.
about tentacles, but yeah, hey, chameleonomics, that's the way to go, especially if you like colours.
I thought that was the way you were going.
But there we go. So yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot more you could talk about. I mean, yeah, we sort of talked about agility as well, but yeah, and you build in relevance. Resilience. Relevance.
Resilience is a really important concept, isn't it?
And yeah, your thing about talking to people that talk to customers, that brings back the relevance. If you've got all those things, which just happen to be the 5 pillars of chameleonomics, then you're in a pretty good place, because as I like to remind everybody, the average life of a company these days is of the order of 5 years. And in fact, the lady who I like to quote, Nadia Zeksembayeva, Dr. Nadia Zeksembayeva, she recently reported, because they do a regular study, that 40% of all CEOs are not necessarily completely turning their business on its head, but they're reinventing their business every year.
Wow.
Doing something to it to keep it sort of relevant and flexible, and
wow,
which is an incredible thought. So if these people are doing it, then us mere minions should be at least thinking
doing
about
something the same. Yeah, absolutely.
Keeping our options open, one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there we go.
Wow, every year. Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of change.
It is. So I think that just about. That's quite. Everybody's got a bumper episode from us today. 25 minutes. So there we go. So we'll be back with more fun, more games, more completely
Bonkers.
irrelevant. But it's not. It's all relevant. Just depends what you do with it. On about the 20th of February, I believe, it's the third Friday.
Is that right? Okay.
Third Friday in February. So
I shall look forward to that one.
Indeed. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
I'm glad you did that finally. Tatty bye.